Resident Evil is a 2002 film from everyone's favorite director, Paul W.S. Anderson. This is the one that started it all, headlining a series that's continued to this day. 2016, we're actually getting the final chapter, Resident Evil, the final chapter. Unless, of course, it makes a shit ton of money, then I'm sure we'll get more. But this was the first one, and I want to revisit it. I have a trilogy set of the first three here, but I wanted to check out the first one for now. It's a movie that I've seen quite a few times, and watching it again recently, I'm not sure I really understand the plot of the movie. Not that there's an overcomplicated plot or anything like that. It's just kind of sloppily and stupidly written that you kind of reach a point in the movie where you don't really care to pay that much attention because you know it's not going to be that much worth it. But I mean, basically, in the basic sense of things, there's this underground facility, Umbrella Corporation, which has all this military technology and testing, and the T virus, and it escapes and all that stuff. And these people have to go to this facility, and once they realize the terrors within, the zombies and the mutants and general havoc being ruck in this facility, they have to escape. So that's basically the movie, and that's pretty much all you need to know. And it is, of course, based on the very popular video game Resident Evil, which I did play back in the day, and I have fond memories of it. I remember being impressed with it because it did feel quite cinematic. It felt like you were controlling your character, but you were part of a horror movie essentially. So it felt almost like a haunted house movie mixed with a zombie movie. So it was very tense, had some good jump scares, and it had a good atmosphere to it. And while this movie takes plot elements that are recognizable, Umbrella Corporation, all that stuff from that game, and from, I'm sure, the games in that Resident Evil series that would follow, doesn't really bear much of a resemblance in terms of tone or anything like that. I wouldn't call this, a traditional type of zombie movie, if there is such a thing. It's more of an action-oriented picture, which is fine. It's an action horror, survival horror, that kind of thing. But it is a very stupid movie with a stupid plot and stupid characters and things like that. And, I'm watching this movie again, trying to get into it a little bit, but I don't feel the slightest bit of caring for these characters or anything like that. And for one thing, there's a lot of characters, all just so they can kind of be picked off. And every other character, not to sound racist, but every other character is a white guy with brown hair, seems exactly the same. I literally couldn't tell some of these characters apart. And the only black guy they have in the movie is dead in the first 20 minutes. And if they want to cast who they want to cast, it's fine, but at least try to make them distinguishable in some way. The characters in this movie aren't really distinguishable, even the most rudimentary sense of things. Normally you might have, this is the brave one, this is the smart aleck, this is the one who's weird or whatever, but they all seem alike. And there's points in this movie where it's okay, this one guy dies, but I thought he was this other guy. This one guy looks like he's about to die, but he doesn't really die. Then he comes back later, he's like, hey guys, I'm still alive. And I'm like, who are you? And it's all that kind of stuff. But what kind of makes the movie stand out a little bit is obviously the most standout characters of this film are the two female characters, which is kind of cool. It is a female-centric film. The two best and most interesting characters, they are women. Mia Jovovich playing Alice, and Michelle Rodriguez playing whoever the hell she was playing. And I liked their kind of friendship that kind of bonds in the movie. They really start to kind of get close and things like that. So I like that. And, I like the fact that despite the stupidity of this movie, which is abundant, I do like that Mia Jovovich, who I always thought was pretty cool, and for my money, I think she's one of the most gorgeous women on the planet. I like the fact that she is a franchise to call her own, because not a lot of actors and actresses can claim, I have a fucking franchise with fucking 6 movies in it, what do you got? So I think that's pretty cool, even if it kind of all amounts to, what sexy outfit are we going to put her in each movie. I still think it's pretty cool that, we have Milla Jovovich's signature franchise, which I like. And there are some good scenes here and there, some standout action scenes. Like, of course, probably the most memorable part of the movie is with the dogs, the zombie dogs, and she does, like, the jump, kick, flip, and roundhouses the dog in the fucking face, and I think that's pretty cool, too. And apparently she did all her own stunts for the movie, which, you know, respect for that. And, yeah, it's enjoyable in that sense. It's an undemanding movie. It's almost something that you could, you know, like if you're working on a project or homework or whatever, you put it on the TV in the background, don't really pay much attention to it unless, you know, like, oh, there's one little, you know, 2-minute scene that's kind of interesting, and I'll watch that. But the plot is completely useless here. Any kind of subplot they put in about somebody's betraying someone else, and they have to expose the company for this or that or the other thing. Who cares? Like, no one cares about that except for, you know, the action scene. So it almost would have been better if it were even stupider than it is, but it tries to seem like it has some kind of substance, and it doesn't really, and the characters are just pretty useless. Even Alice, who's the main character, I mean, there's nothing particularly interesting about her, especially since with, like, the key players, since we Alice and the other guy, and maybe some other guy, I don't know how many characters are affected by this, but, like, there's this, like, nerve gas that brings you know, memory loss to them. So this amnesia gas knocks them out in the beginning of the movie. Then throughout the whole movie, they're kind of struggling to remember who they are, basically. Which, in a better movie, would kind of be a useful device, an interesting device. But here it's not. And so we don't know or care who these characters are. These characters barely know or care who they are. There's one ridiculous scene where there's a flashback, and then all of a sudden the villain, the traitor of the movie, suddenly realized, like, a switch has been flipped, that he's the villain, he's the bad guy, and you don't really know whose flashback that is. Is it his? Is it hers? And it's like, this is the stupidest movie. This is Paul W.S. Anderson writing at its finest. So I don't know. Resident Evil, it has some nice zombie stuff here and there. I would hardly even classify this, like, among zombie movies. Like, oh, what are your favorite zombie movies? Oh yeah, you know, like Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, you know, Brain Dead, or Dead Next Door, whatever. This not in the category of zombie movies. It's an action thriller virus kind of thing, and for what it is, I mean, it's somewhat enjoyable. It's not by any means a good movie, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't find some kind of value in it. And the other movies, they're trash, they're silly, but I don't know, I guess you can say guilty pleasure or something like that. And for what it's worth, I think it's a competently made movie, competently acted, set design, costume design, special effects. I mean, there's CGI that's not that horrible, but very clearly like early 2000s CGI that doesn't look that great. And a really good music score, actually, like kind of this like techno kind of score to it, which was okay. So, I don't know, Resident Evil, whatever could have been, if there was a direct adaptation of the mood that the game, the PlayStation game, or whatever console it was on, whatever that created, I think we would have had a great kind of zombie movie in company with the others, though maybe it wouldn't be as critical or as financially well received enough to warrant, 6 additional movies in the franchise. So that's Resident Evil for you. Here's to the final chapter. So long, Resident Evil. It's been a ride. I don't know. So thanks very much for watching. Let me know what you think of Resident Evil below. I'm curious to see if this movie has big fans or if maybe I'm being too kind on it. I don't know. So comment, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff. Visit Dare237.com. And until next time, I'll see you later, and stay scared.